Nicole Taxopolis or Nikki?
Okay, now it's working. Good morning, everyone. Okay, today you're live, so you don't have to worry about it. Good morning, everyone. Let's see if this picks up. Do you want to check to see if it's going? I don't know. Something's wrong with my Facebook today.
I can't.
Very strange.
Oh, it is.
Is it on? You see it?
Yeah.
Ah, there it is. Okay. Sorry for that, guys. Happy Lag Baomer. Good morning, everyone. We're going to start off today's Say Tehillim. If you have tzedakah, feel free to give. Here you go. Good morning, Bernice. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning, Lauren. Great to see everybody. Okay, today is a special day. It's the day that Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students who had died, they stopped dying. So we commemorate that by celebrating. But on the other hand, my husband just made me aware of something very, very powerful. There was a very, very big Talmud Chacham, a big Rosh Yeshiva that lives here in Toronto. His name is Rabbi Akiva Wagner. And he had 24,000 students over the years. He said on Lag Baomer, Rabbi Akiva stopped losing his 24,000 students. Right? Like he stopped the death. But yesterday, 24,000 students lost their Rabbi Akiva. His name was Rabbi Akiva. He battled for 4 years, and it is so tragic. I went to speak at the high school yesterday because some of his children study at the high school. And they asked me to come, and Goldie prepares something in 15 minutes. The girls are oismensch. You know what the word oismensch is? Like, they're not thinking. They're emotionally devastated. And it was just very, very sad to walk in there and see a school of 80 girls and a few of his children go to that school. And it's a young man. He's 54 years old. So we need to ask Hashem on this day of Lag Baomer, Hashem, you can make miracles. Make miracles and just send us one thing. We're not asking for riches. We're not asking for fame. We're not asking for comfort. We're asking just for one thing. Mashiach. Just Mashiach. Send us Mashiach and you won't have to have... This man has a little boy who had to say Kaddish yesterday. A little boy should not have to stand at a burial and say Kaddish. An older person says Kaddish. Someone in their 60s and their 70s, that makes sense. But a 10-year-old? The world is crazy. And Hashem is in charge. You're in charge, Hashem. Like, I'm saying this in a shul because Hashem, you're here. This is ridiculous. We can't keep having it. The day before, my first cousin lost her 40-year-old husband. He had a heart attack and died. Left them with 7 children. I mean, it's like one after another. I can barely breathe. You know, we're talking today about Tanya. We're talking about connecting to Hashem. It's a relationship. Relationships, we all know, are give and take. We say to Hashem, Hashem, we're giving you. We're changing. All of us are changing our lives. Think about 10 years ago. Were you sitting here and learning Tanya? You've changed your lives. Hashem has to hear us. We are changing, transforming our lives for you. Hashem, it's payback time. Children, 5-year-old children do not have to say Kaddish. That's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. And yet, we still open our Tehillim and say Tehillim. We still know that we only still lean on Hashem. We're not leaving you, Hashem. We're disappointed and we're sad and we don't understand your ways. But we're not letting go of Hashem. Because to become an agnostic or an atheist, that's really digging yourself in the hole. We're just holding on to our Father and saying, show us emes, show us the truth, show us light, show us the geula. And Lag Baomer is a day that we can really ask Hashem for things. We're told that the tremendous miracles come down. The ability to transform is very, very intense on Lag Baomer. So today we should take advantage. Davening a lot, giving extra tzedakah, celebrating Lag Baomer, right? Hashem Baruch Chai said, I want you to celebrate my passing by celebration. You know, sometimes you go to people's homes with a shiva and the people are saying, I don't want to be sad. My parent was a happy person. Let's celebrate their life. That's actually what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said. He left a legacy to his students. He says, don't be sad on my passing. Celebrate it. And hence, all over the world, there's music, there's weddings, there's simchas. We're transforming the day of sadness into a day of joy. Okay, chapter Chaf. I also want to give a special refuah shlema to my mother, who broke her shoulder and she's in the hospital with a lot of pain. So I'm going to say Tehillim for her, Sir Mindelbas Esther Gold, Sir Mindelbas Chana Etka. And for anyone else, I see a few people left names here. We have Tehillim for, hi Lauren, hi Helga, Devar Bas Rezel, Rachel Bas Vega, and if you have any other names, feel free to put it on. Okay. Lamratzeach Mizmor David Yancha Dinar Biyom Tzara. Yisagef Hashem Elehei Yaakov. Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh Mitzion Yisadeka. Yiskar Kol Mechasecha V'Lascha Yidash Nesela. Yiten Lecha Chavavecha V'Chol Atzascha Yimale Nirana B'Shuasecha Uv'Shem Eloheinu Nitgol. Yimale Adonai Kol Mashalasecha Ati Adati Ki Yashi Adonai Mishicho Yanei Mishmei Kotra B'Gvurus Yeshamine. Now say it with me if you know it. Ele V'Rechev Ve'ele Basusim V'Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskir. Heima Karu V'Nafalu V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisadad. And this you know, Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Yanenu V'Yam Kurenu. Good morning, Corinne. Okay, we have Adasa Baslei Nachama, Moshe Ben Chana, Moshe Eliezer Ben Devorah Esther, and we will be saying to having them in mind. Hi, Sophie. Good morning, Elise. Good morning, Barb. Good morning, Sophie. Good morning, Arlene. Good morning, Ava. Good morning, Barbara. Yona Baschaya. Okay, good. Okay, good morning, Rosalie. All right, so now we're ready to get on. We're going to be finishing chapter 5 today. And you know, everything in life, it's amazing how everything in life connects to our connection to Hashem. What was the big thing that happened this past Sunday? And 20 million people tuned in to watch this.
The coronation.
The coronation of King Charles.
I didn't tune into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dober Bas Kayla. Thank you, Barbara. 20 million people and many, many more thereafter watched. What's the fascination about the coronation of the king? If Hashem created the idea of kingship, it means it's reflecting Hashem's kingship. So it's nothing to dismiss as, oh, it's silly, it's such a dumb thing. It's a reflection, and that's why there's a special prayer when you see a king. There's a bracha that a Jew makes when they see a king.
Even if it's not a Jewish.
Even if it's not a Jewish king. When my Mendy was on Shluchas in Spain about 5-6 years ago, he bumped into the King of Spain. No. The King of Spain is not as big shadi as the King of England. He didn't have that. But Mendy happened to be near the palace, and there was the king, and Mendy took a picture of him. And Mendy had to make the bracha. Why? Because everything in this world is a reflection in the world of God. So there's something about a king that we can learn. There's the glory, there's the beauty, there's the glitter. Yes, it's physical, it's materialistic. But on the opposite side, Hashem has that manifestation of holiness. We talk Hashem about a light, about an aura. We say when the neshama sit around God, we say they sit around Hashem's throne. Why a throne? Because as humans, we can internalize what is going on by Hashem. Yes, it's spiritual, but there's the connotation of a throne. Hashem has his servants like a king. This king was surrounded by such pomp and ceremony, but also all these people that were carrying music and carrying his weapons and carrying these so much significance. What does that mean? This is all a reflection, really, of what's going on in Olam Haba, but in the spiritual world. But what I wanted to speak about today was something that I want to connect it to what we were talking about last week. We said there are 2 ways we connect to God. What are those 2 ways? Put it here in the comments if you remember. The 2 ways we connect to God. The mitzvahs and the
prayers.
So prayers and brachas are mitzvahs. Mm-hmm. But there's one other way that we talk about, and we're doing it now.
So
Learning, right. So there's Torah, and then there's mitzvahs. What did we say? That's right, Ava, prayers. Prayers is the mitzvah. So how is there a different connection between the 2? Or is it the same? Studying Torah, doing mitzvahs is all the same way. Remember, we said one is food and one is garments. Okay, let me just recollect, right? We said mitzvahs are the garments. All right, I'm wearing a jacket, I can take it off, and the jacket's gone. Purim, I was dressed up one Purim as a Mexican. Okay, I had the hat, I had the scarf, my husband had the special pants with all the frills, he had the whole thing. Now it's in a Purim basket. 1 second, but if he was dressed up as a Mexican, and now it's in a Purim basket, what does that mean?
You can take it off.
Yeah, you could take it off. And a day later, he walks into shul, still wearing his black hat and his kapata. It's like, wait, Rav Platkin, we thought you're Mexican. No, on Purim I was a Mexican, but that was not me. Those are called levushim. A mitzvah is a levush. We can put it on, we can take it off. Let's be realistic. I make a bracha on my food. Oh, I'm connected to Hashem. Then 10 minutes later, I'm talking Lashon Hara. I took off that levush. Suddenly I'm not Hashem. Suddenly I'm not connected to Hashem. What happened? Because mitzvahs are temporary. It's so sad to say this, but it's true. If you agree with what I'm saying, just let me know. Give me a thumbs up. When you do a mitzvah, you're righteous. It's just for a moment. Because we know people that do good things, right? There are people that steal from the rich, and then they give it to tzedakah, right? They're definitely doing an avera. They're definitely doing a sin. Their mind maybe wants to help the poor, but doing it the wrong way. So the mitzvah that we can do sometimes is a wonderful thing. And it's giving me, Evelyn walked in today with her jacket. It was cold outside. She took it off now. Right? The garment goes on or off. Our mitzvahs can come on or off. But what is something that stays forever? Our food, our Torah. So at the same party where I was wearing the Mexican hat, I was also eating from the buffet a lot of delicious hot dogs. Now, the next day, okay, the garment is off, but what stays with me, guys? The hot dog's on. And I could say to someone, I had a big Purim party yesterday, and Goldie, we can see. Right? So the mitzvahs come on and off. The Torah stays forever. That's why the story about those boys who bumped into a guy from Bedford-Stuyvesant, why did he say, I hate Chabad? Because what they taught him, he couldn't unteach. Now, there's something else that's very, very profound about Torah. It's very interesting because when a person learns Torah or gives over Torah to their families, what are you doing when you teach your children Torah? Or you give them over Dvar Torah? Not just be good, sit down, have manners, say I'm sorry, say thank you, all the things that parents drive their parents crazy about, right? The kids crazy, the whole day. You have to teach your kids manners. But what really happens when you teach your children a mitzvah? You teach them about Hashem. You teach them to say Shema, and you tell them to understand that they are part of Hashem. What happens at that point?
They're giving them a connection.
And what happens between you and your child?
You grow a bond.
You grow a bond. You can put on your child a sweater, they go to school, then the sweater gets lost in the park, and that sweater's gone. Mm-hmm. And you say to yourself, big deal, I'll buy another one. I'll go to Old Navy, I'll pick up another sweater. But what you teach your children when they're in your house can never be discarded, can never be lost. Is that not incredibly powerful? That connection that we are building with our children, and as moms and as grandparents, we must remember what we buy them, gifts we give them, here today, gone tomorrow. You buy them a gift, you buy them a prize, you buy them a new bicycle. 3 years later, the bicycle's gone. But whatever we teach our children, whatever we invest in our children is lifelong and forever. So my husband is, Evelyn, you saw the picture on the wall of my husband's grandfather? I showed everyone on Shabbos. So my husband is a grandson of a very, very, very great Talmid Chacham. His name was Avram Plotkin. My husband's named after him. He was one of the huge Talmid Chachamim in Russia. He was a Misnagdisha boy, and he trained and became a chassid. And then he became the head of the yeshiva, and then he became the head of the rabbinical movement. He was the chief rabbi. My husband obviously didn't meet him. He passed away in France. He wrote many, many, many insights into Torah. And he wrote it on manuscripts. It was later brought out from Russia and brought to America. And my husband had the schus for 15 years to rewrite these transcripts. And they put together 2 books in Hebrew and 1 in English. And it's called something of Eliyahu, the Pearls of Eliyahu, of Avram Eliyahu. And there's a lot of, he was a very big Kabbalist, so there's a lot of Kabbalistic insights. So my husband spent hours and hours and hours together with his father, because a lot of stuff was written in Yiddish, in Hebrew, and there was even some things in Russian. So my father-in-law and my husband would sit hours till sometimes 2 a.m. to rewrite this and to have it printed. And it's something fascinating. My husband said the connection that he has now with his father and with his grandfather is limitless. With his grandfather, because he took his grandfather's work and he transformed it and made it into a book. But what he did was, he spent time learning Torah with his father. And that Torah has made a connection. You know, there are other siblings, they come, they bring him birthday cakes, they buy him a tie, they take him to the doctor appointment. These are all very, very important stuff. But my husband says the connection that he has with his father because of the Torah learning, the connection that he has with his grandfather, with the Torah learning, it's infinite and it's limitless. It will stay forever. So think about that. All of us now that are watching, whether it's Naomi, whether it's Gilda, whether it's Lisa, whether it's Francesca, Jennifer, remember your role as a mother. Yes, we have to dress our children. Yes, we have to feed our children. We have to teach them math. We have to do their homework. We have to do all kinds of beautiful things. Don't forget, the real connection for life will be the connection you make every time you teach them Torah. So when you put them in bed at night, we have 2 options. We can lie down and read them a Robert Munch book, which is great. And it brings loving bonding, and you hug your child and you kiss them, and it's so cute. Especially the book, I Love You Forever. But think about reading them Torah books. And there are today, our shul library downstairs, Jewish books that impart Hashem's wisdom. When you impart Hashem's wisdom, that's food. That's food. And you and your children's bond is forever. Your children's bond to Hashem is forever. Which is powerful, because think about what you are feeding your child. As they get older, they're going to go off to high school, they're going to go off to university, they're going to get married, they're going to move to a different part of the world. Did you embolden them to live a strong, healthy, functional life? Did you give them enough of Hashem inside of them that wherever they go and whatever challenge, someone bullies them, someone tries to cheat them, I look at my mother, she fell and broke her shoulder. She's now in the hospital and waiting for surgery. But the way she takes it, you could see my mother sits and studies Torah every single day. Literally in the mornings from, I think, 7:45 till almost like 10 in the morning, she's on a Torah class. If you call in the morning to say good morning, she says good morning, but she has to hang up because she's in the middle of a Torah class. So her view now, she's lying in the hospital in NYU and she's in pain. But the way she speaks, you could see she's a strong woman. It's going to be good. Hashem is with me. It hurts, but I'm going to be okay. Today I'm feeling better. It's already better. Hashem is going to make it better. The word she's using is not like, oh, why does this happen to me? What's wrong with me? Hashem left me. No. She's taking all the Torah that she learned that's now her body. So she's making herself a very strong body and a very strong guf. So she's going to be able to deal. Because we're all going to deal with stuff. We're going to deal with stuff. We're very physical people living in a physical world. But what we also are a spiritual person, the Nefesh Elokis. And the Nefesh Elokis, as it gets stronger with Hashem, I spoke about how I started doing yoga now every week. And the yoga is not a Zumba class. You're not jumping, you're not working your abs and your muscle. No, it's all about your core. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. You schwitz for an hour, and you come out of there like you get into the car. I don't know about maybe your age. When you get into my car, it's like, what did I do with this yoga class? The truth of the matter is, I'm strengthening. A day later, I feel stronger. Mm-hmm. She's strengthening all my muscles from inside out. So Torah is inside out. And so when we learn Torah, but a Jew has to do both, because Torah learning is a mitzvah. And a Jew has to have the right garments. We can't walk around naked and say, well, I have God in me. We need the proper clothing, which is the mitzvah, which we know that when we wear the proper clothing, we get different kinds of images. We get different kinds of people that see us and talk to us differently. You know, I was speaking yesterday. What was yesterday? I was giving a class somewhere. Oh, I was teaching a bride. And I was preparing, she's getting married this week. Not the bride class, a separate bride. It's a private class, she's getting married this week. And we were talking about when you get married, you have to be very careful about the things that, obviously before you're married, you always have to watch what you see, because what you see becomes you. So we were talking, yesterday's class was the final class, and I was talking about the night of the wedding. We talked about the day of the wedding, the night of the wedding. And I was telling her about Yom Kippur, and we give a lot of tzedakah on that day. We say Tehillim. So I know you're having your face done, you're having makeup done, but be aware that on the day of your wedding, you should also say Tehillim, give tzedakah, do things spiritual, because it is Yom Kippur. It's the day that your entire slate is wiped out and you're starting brand new. Wow. That only happens the day of you getting married. It's amazing, right? So I said to her, and then we spoke about the wedding, and I said, and when you come home at night, that's when the intimacy, that's the actual consummation of the marriage. If a couple didn't actually have physical intimacy, that they didn't do the actual finish up the mitzvah of the wedding. Like, you have to do the ring, and you have to do the brachas and the chuppah, and you have to do the ketubah, right? Everyone knows that. But the intimacy part, it's called the be'ilat mitzvah, and that's when you consume the marriage. And I spoke about how important a couple has to be, and how sensitive they have to realize that they are, what they're thinking about while they're intimate is having a profound reflection on the intimacy of the two of them and how it affects the children. What you think about. So what happens? What if I can't handle my thoughts, right? What if thoughts pop in? And we spoke about it the last 2 weeks, about our thoughts and what kind of thoughts we have. So we spoke in length about, today's challenge, and I heard Manis Freeman say that today's challenge is that when a couple is intimate, there's really 4 people that are being physically together. It's the man and woman that are together, and it's the people that they're thinking about that are together. That the brain is, this is what therapy tells us, the brain is the biggest sex organ. That's the organ that really affects what's happening physically. So if a couple has inappropriate thoughts in their mind, that's actually affecting the intimacy. So what we see throughout the day, whether we're scrolling on our phone or we're passing by or a movie or people watching movies, when it says PG or when it says, what's the one on top of that?
PG-13.
PG-13, and then there's R, right? So you think it's just for children, but really a Jew has to say, wait, if it's PG-13 or it's R, what's going to be there that will stay in my mind? As a Jew, what I'm thinking, it's reflecting right now in my mind, in my midos, in the way I talk and what I think. Do I want that to stay forever? Because what you see, you can't unsee. What you see. That is why the strongest witness in court is someone who saw it, not someone who heard. Oh, I heard so-and-so was killed. Were you there? If you weren't there, then it's useless. Vision is the strongest sense. And it's for the good, and it's also, unfortunately, so what we see and what we are visioning is what stays in our mind. That's why when we say about Torah, why is Torah so important? Because it fills up the mind with good stuff. So we shouldn't fill our mind. They say that when Yosef was thrown into the pit, it says he was thrown into an empty pit, and there were snakes and scorpions, and there were no snakes and scorpions in the pit.
Empty.
It was an empty pit.
Empty.
It was nothing, and it was empty. So why does it have to say twice? Evelyn? Because if something's empty, something is going to come and fill it up. And if you don't fill it up with good things, snakes and scorpions are going to come. When you have idle time, or the children are doing nothing, be aware that nothingness can lead to filling it up with silliness. And I'm not saying that, like when my grandchildren was over last week, and at one point she was, every 5 minutes, Bubby, I'm bored now. So we did an art class. Bubby, I'm bored now. Okay, let's go play on the trampoline. Bubby, I said, you know what? It's okay to be bored. Just relax. So being bored, it's not like we have to give our children activities. But when they have a whole afternoon and there's nothing, or kids are going away and there's like 3 days of doing nothing, what are they filling their days with? What are we filling our days with? Right? That's why we always have to have so many good Jewish books around. Because if I'm not busy with anything, what am I going to fill my time with? Right? And we all have the challenge. So I was sharing with this Kala yesterday that I went to it was a 2-day retreat for the mikveh ambassadors. You know, I'm an ambassador for an organization called Mikveh USA. So we go around the world speaking about mikveh, and then we get together, like there's like 20 of us, we get together to talk about what we're teaching, and we share and we inspire each other. The founder of this organization, his name is Rabbi Bistritsky. And if you were here at the mikveh opening, he spoke for us. Do you remember that he doesn't look up at women? When he addressed us at the retreat, he talked like this. He goes, so ladies, thank you so much for coming. I'm very happy you made it from all over the world. And we have to talk about mikveh. What's the urgency of mikveh? Why are we spending hundreds of 20 minutes. He didn't look up. Now, I know as a Chabad rabbi, if my husband did that, he wouldn't have a congregation. Mm-hmm. But this man is a chassid who lives in Bar Pop, and he doesn't have to lead a congregation of women and men that aren't yet religious, right? So he was speaking to religious women. He didn't have to impress us, and he didn't want to look at women that are not his wife and his children. It's not my way, but it's something that I can respect. Mm-hmm. Interesting, right? Remember I spoke last week about this guy who walks in the street and he has colored vision glasses. He doesn't want it. What is it for? It's being fanatic? It's not a Chabad way. But for people who do that, it's because they want to preserve what goes on into their mind. They want to be holy. The Rebbe, the biggest tzaddik in my life, spoke to women and stood on Sundays. That was, the Rebbe felt that, if you immerse yourself and you fill yourself with Torah, then you can look at other people and give them $1 and give them a bracha. Mm-hmm. Right? But the question is, what do we do? Are we doing what the Rebbe does? Are we being careful with that? So we have to be careful. So I want to take it out on a different sort of a little bit trajectory. We said that Torah stays with us forever. Let me ask you a question. If there is a person that lives a Torah life, and someone laughs at your Torah, are they laughing at you, or are they laughing at God?
They're laughing at themselves.
Right. But who are they embarrassing at that moment? Themselves. And they're also poking fun at Hashem. Because when you put down Hashem, we as Jewish people, it's our responsibility, we're told, to uphold the Torah. That's why we don't leave the Torah lying around. We hold the Torah. We put it away in the Or Kodesh. We protect the Torah. When a Jewish person is, God forbid, or Talmud Chacham, or someone that looks like they are representing God, and they are laughed at because of, let's say, the way they dress, that's a serious responsibility. That you're not making fun of Mordechai Shapiro or David Lane, you are making fun of Hashem. And I'll just tell you a story about that. There was, because the person that signifies Torah, remember, he learns Torah, so he's a walking Torah. If the Torah falls on the floor, chas v'shalom, the whole community fasts. Yeah. Why? It's just the Torah. Yeah. Pick up the Torah and put it away. Why? Because the Torah is Hashem. But when we walk around with us being Hashem's representative, we are a Torah. That's why we dress a certain way, because we are protecting Hashem's Torah. We are reflecting Hashem's Torah. There was a great rabbi in Poland that was on his way to visit a city. He was going there to deliver a speech. And he was sitting there with his black hat, his long beard, his black coat, and he's sitting and studying. Come along a few secular, there was a communist kind of Jews, and they start laughing at him, making fun of his clothing. Hey, Rabbi, why don't you start looking like the rest of us? You look so outdated. Why don't you look like the rest of the updated? Laughing at him. And this was a Talmud Chacham. He wasn't going to, like you said, they're embarrassment to themselves. He wasn't going to respond. So he continued learning, ignored. He arrives at this destination, And these 3 guys were getting off as well. And they see these massive crowds waiting at the train. They're clearly coming to greet someone. So they jump off, they go, wait, what's going on? They said, oh, we came to greet the great Rabbi Shapiro. Really? He's on the train? Yeah, he is arriving. He's one of the greatest scholars today in Polish Jewry. He's here as a visitor. He's coming to speak. Look what's going on here. Look at the thousands, men, women, children. Mm-hmm. So they jump off to be able to... And who comes off to the cheering of the crowd was this Talmud Chacham that they had just embarrassed. They were devastated. Yes, they were very secular boys, but they understood that there are hundreds of thousands of Jews. They realized, but they didn't realize it was this guy. So they ran over to him and they begged him. And he says, I'm so sorry. I can't forgive you. They go, what do you mean you can't forgive us? We didn't realize it was you. He goes, you didn't embarrass me. You embarrassed every Torah Jew that looks like me, that's learning Hashem's Torah, that's wearing that kippah, that's wearing those tzitzis. You embarrassed them. You see all these hundreds of thousands of people? Walk over to each one and say, I'm sorry. It's a powerful story. Because we are representing, when we learn Torah, we are a piece of Hashem. We are representing Hashem. The good side is that we are connected to Hashem. The downside is that anyone that says something inappropriate, they don't realize they're starting up with Hashem. We say that Hashem's presence, when we study Torah, protects us. I told you that when Shalom Bear was being chased by that coyote, and he said, right, I told you? And he said that pasuk, no? Maybe I said it on Shabbos. It was one summer when there was a coyote running around Thornhill, and everyone was petrified, and he was biting people in their yeah. So Shalmer was a little boy. I think he was 12 years old. He was driving home with driving his bicycle. He was riding his bicycle, and he was coming right by that ravine. You know, over by near our house, there's that ravine, right? He was driving by. He was biking by, and suddenly a coyote came up, but he didn't know what it was. He comes running to the house and goes, Ma, this massive dog came running after me at the foot of my wheel. I said, what do you do? He said, I started to scream, L'chol b'nei Yisrael, lo yechras kelev v'shayna. It's a pasuk that the Jews said when they were being chased by animals. They said this pasuk, and it chases them away. And it's a pasuk that Jews throughout the centuries have said, L'chol b'nei Yisrael, to all the Jews of Israel, lo yechras kelev v'shayna, that a dog will never wag their tail, their tongue in front of them. And it's a pasuk that's actually in the Torah. L'chol b'nei Yisrael, lo yechras kelev v'shayna. It's funny because when I was a little girl, my grandmother taught me this in Yiddish. Hint, hint, ich bin Yaakov's kind, du bist Esav's kind. Ob du wirst mir beißen, my tata Yaakov wird dir zerreißen. You know what that means? Dog, dog, I am Yaakov's child, you are Esav's child. If you bite me, my father Yaakov will come and rip you apart. It's a Yiddish one that my grandmother taught me. I think I was 6 years old, I remember it still today. So he said that pasuk, and then all of a sudden, the coyote turned around and went back into the ravine.
No way.
I thought it was a dog, and I said, wow, Baruch Hashem, you're home. And I hugged him, and I said, Shalom, you're home, you're home. A few hours later, I see on Facebook that there's a coyote, and they showed a picture. I said, Shalom, was that the dog? He goes, yeah. I go, Shalom, it wasn't a dog. It was a coyote. And they were talking about call the police because this coyote is biting people in front of their homes in the Willowbrook area. And then there was helicopters. Anyway, what was the point? When you study Torah, it protects you. It watches us. Say the psukim, because that watches us. So this is what it means when you have Torah. There's a story of Daniel, one of the great prophets, that was thrown into a pit of lions, a cage of lions, and the lions sat down next to him. They were hoping that this was in the days of before the temple. They were hoping that the lions would rip up Daniel because he was one of the great prophets. This was the anti-Semite. But instead, the lions sat there. These things happen because animals, I'll compare them now to the terrorists, we're told that the Jews won the war of the 6-day war because the Jews were in the middle of davening. They came out with the tefillin. And it says in the Torah that the sight of the tefillin will scare your enemies. So what are all these psukim, Holy B'nai Yisrael le'echaz k'il China, and tefillin, it keeps away your enemies. What does that mean?
That light scares off the darkness.
What's the light?
Hashem.
The light of Hashem, the light of the Torah. So when we study Torah, it becomes part of us. It's sort of a protection. It's like they say the Iron Dome is really the protection of Hashem's protecting the Jewish people. The mitzvahs that we do is keeping, yes, we do see deaths and we do see tragedies, and Rabbi D just buried his wife and 2 daughters, and we see it, and that's why we scream out to Hashem. But Hashem, you said that you're protecting us. So that's what Gullus is. Gullus is not so clear. Gullus is not a time where every one of Hashem's promises are revealed in an obvious way. So we ask Hashem for Mashiach. We say to Hashem, so this is what this chapter is. We just finished chapter 5, where it talks about the greatness of Torah. So we're ending off with something practical. Make Torah your life. Teach it to your children so that you're instilling your children with this core, with this strength, and protecting them with this light. So wherever they go, so sit down at the Shabbos table, and it's not just talk about the food and about the news, but giving them the food, the real food. So we give them the fish, the soup, the chicken, the cholent, or the tfina, and all the other delicious foods that we all eat. What's the name of your delicious cholent?
Chamin.
The chamin. Remember we tried to make it with the bread and the eggs? Oh, the shachnon, right. So those are foods we give them, and that's what we do as mothers. We give our kids delicious Shabbos food. But more than that, the mothers are responsible for giving the children the spiritual food. Have a beautiful, beautiful Lag Baomer. See, there was a question here which I didn't see. Why didn't a lady talk instead? Oh, well, this man he had a lot of respect for us women, and he's the one that raises the money. He's the one that has this mandate, and he's the one that wanted to be there to greet the women. He came from New York to greet us. The fact that he didn't look, there were many of us that gave speeches that day. He wasn't the only one, but he at that moment said, you know what? I only look at my wife and my daughters, and we respected that. And we respect everybody for their values. And anyway, take care. Happy Lag Baomer.